So this year I performed at the Asian Comedy Festival, and something one of the organizers said to me really stuck with me. They said when we were looking at these submissions, we were looking for people who weren't just making fun of their parents' accents for white people. Now, I wanted to share with you guys some serious reflections that I had on that as somebody a few years into stand-up. So I came back from performing at the 2026 Asian Comedy Festival in New York last week, and I had a great time. I mean, there was a lot of talented comedians on the lineup. There were multiple sold-out shows, and I got to see one of my favorite up-and-coming comics, Ray Lau, drop in and do a set. I mean, the crowd was super young, super Asian. I loved it. I had a great time. So last day of the festival, I managed to talk to somebody who was on the selection committee, who was in charge of, picking the comics for the festival. And I submitted a 6-minute tape to get in, but I didn't really know how the process works. So I asked them, hey, what were you looking for when you looked at these tapes? And they told me, hey, we got a lot of people who we felt like were just making fun of, their parents' accents for white people. And we got rid of them. We picked the people who we thought were actually funny. Now, I thought that was super interesting because it's something I've been thinking about since I started comedy. So a little bit of background information about me. I live in San Francisco. I've been doing stand-up for about 4 years now, which might sound like a good amount of time, but in stand-up terms, it still means I'm relatively new. So take everything I'm about to say with a grain of salt. I am originally from San Jose, California, which is about an hour south of here. I grew up in a super Asian neighborhood. Like, we had a lot of South Asians, Chinese folks, Vietnamese folks, Filipino folks. Like, it was super, super Asian. My high school yearbook had a full page of just dudes named Kevin Nguyen. So obviously, as you might expect in a neighborhood like that, I grew up with a pretty mixed Asian friend group. We heard a lot of that kind of humor where it's like some Asian dad being like, you're not a Bijan, you're an Asian. Like, we heard that so much in the late 2000s, early 2010s, that it became cringe to us, you know? It just became like Reddit meme humor to us. So when I started doing comedy, I had this rule. I was just like, you know what? I'm not going to talk about my parents at all. Like, too many Desi, too many Asian comedians are doing this. I don't want to. I'm going to try something new. Honestly, when I started doing comedy, I didn't even really want to talk about being Desi all that much. Two of my favorite comedians are Hannibal Buress and Demetri Martin. These guys don't really talk about race. They're just sharing random loose thoughts, and I thought that was the kind of comedy I wanted to do. And for a couple of years, that was the type of comedy I was doing, obviously a lot worse than those guys. And one thing I realized as, time went on is that I was limiting myself. White comedians talk about their parents all the time. Like, one of my other favorite comedians is John Mulaney. And in his special New in Town, he has multiple bits about his parents and how they were lawyers and how that affected him growing up. Comedy that's personal and gives you a window into somebody's world can be really interesting. And your relationship with your parents is kind of a big part of who you are. So my parents were really pressuring me to be an engineer when I was growing up. But when I got to college, I went on to do my own thing. And yeah, it might be a little played out, but that was also a big part of my experience and who I am as a person. So I do touch on that in the beginning of my set, but I try not to make it the main focus, try to move on to other topics. Also, accent jokes, I don't think they're always bad or anything, but I think a lot of the times they can be a cheap laugh. Like here in San Francisco, if you do a joke about Filipino nurses or getting your catalytic converter stolen, you can get a quick, cheap laugh. Those jokes might get laughs, but I feel like at the end of the day, audiences appreciate jokes that are well written, that are original, that are unique in some way. And look, I think accent jokes can be that. I mean, I think accents can add a lot of flavor to stand-up. I mean, not even necessarily an Asian accent, like Texas accents, European accents, British accents. I don't know why I said European and British like they're different things. But I think if you're just doing it just to do it, right? Like there's not really a good joke underneath it. It's just a cheap laugh. Again, it's fine if the underlying joke is well written. But, doing an accent can also turn into a minstrel show for people who don't fully see you as human. So I think it's something to be conscious of. And again, I don't think all accent jokes are bad or anything. I mean, one of the first comedians that I ever liked, I know this is probably true for a lot of Desi and a lot of East Asian people, it was Russell Peters. And he was doing that kind of humor all the time. Like, for him, I don't think it was cheap laughs because the underlying jokes were good. And, you know, he was great at doing those act outs. He really made those characters come alive. And, you know, at that time, it was more than 20 years ago, so it was still relatively new. Like, I think a lot of audiences hadn't seen that type of comedy before, and a lot of East Asian and a lot of Desi people related to it because they hadn't seen it either, right? It wasn't cringe yet. But now the year is 2026, you know, so as a Desi comedian, I am going to talk about my parents, but, you know, I want to either have a unique angle or it's got to show who I am in some way, right? Because, again, Russell Peters covered this subject more than 20 years ago, and he did it really well, you know what I mean? Like, if you're not going to add anything on top of that, I don't think you should talk about it. I mean, there's so much to who you are as a person if you're a South Asian or East Asian comedian that probably hasn't been explored yet. So it's up to you to find those things. All right, well, that's the video, everybody. If you like this reflection on stand-up, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Peace out, y'all.